The purpose of this podcast is to give you insights that you will not learn anywhere, not in film school, not online, not from anybody, even people on film sets will not know what I'm teaching you, because we have studied how to go very fast into the film industry and create a career out of it. And that is what this podcast is about, and that is what the A-List program is about, which is our main flagship program that all these people all over the world are doing to work in the film industry. So enjoy today's podcast, and thank you so much for listening. This is Kenneth Arnold Taylor. Worked with him for 5 days, just finished yesterday. I love this guy. He's awesome. He's an awesome person. He has done this. IMDb only shows you like music videos, which is great, and TV shows and feature films, but there's a whole lot more work out there than just this. Like this commercial that we just did, obviously that's not going to be on here. All of the commercials that he's doing now, traveling all over the world with top directors, not going to be on here. So we only see some of the stuff. So you might be like, oh, he hasn't done anything. The guy fucking works all the time. He is amazing. He's worked with The Weeknd, Megan Thee Stallion, Coldplay, The Weeknd again. He's the AD for all of this, you guys. Skate Nation, Ghana. Oh, wow. Wilmore, The Weeknd, After Hours, Blinding Lights, Snoop Dogg. See all. We're not even done. On and on and on. Weeknd. He's been working with The Weeknd since 2017 or maybe even before. Childish Gambino. Awesome. 2015. AD. Music video. Yes, he told me about all of this. And this is just a glimpse, you guys, a glimpse into somebody's life. It's just, it's like not even who they are at all, what they've done. I think I worked with him before. I know that I worked with him before years ago, but I didn't really remember. And he didn't really remember me either. But we worked with the same people because we were talking about these people. And we're like, oh my God, I love that guy. So Kenny's like, yeah, guys, he's telling me and Tamara when we were in the follow van, because we're doing, every day we would do running shots where we put the camera in the car, the talent in the car, I got my gear in the car, and they're just driving the car and we're rolling. And so everybody can hear, everybody can see, and then we got the people mover. So, you know, a big commercial, this is how you do it for running shots, running car shots, basically, probably what you'd call it. Anyway, so we're in the follow van and we're sitting in the van together. And so he's got his monitor, we see the monitors, and he's got the walkie, and then we're next to him, we're listening to what's going on in the car in case something happens and they need us or there's some kind of problem. And so he says, yeah, I grew up in the hood. And we're like, oh, where? Dayton, Ohio. All right, so Dayton, Ohio is a pretty poor town in Ohio, outside of Cleveland, and all of the people that are, you know, whatever, don't have very much money, live there because it's cheaper there, and then they commute into Cleveland. And so he's a junior in college, and he tells his mom, hey, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to college. I don't feel ready at all. Like, I'm not learning anything in my classes, and I just feel like I need to see more of the world. And she's like, well, we're going to move. We're going to move out of here. We're going to move to a suburb. He's like, oh my God. So he moved to the suburb. He was the only black guy in his whole class, and probably being the only black dude in the only brother. That's what he said. I was the only brother in this class. Probably trained him to become very likable, very delightful. Like, he smiles a lot. He's so likable, amiable, you know, just, yeah. So from hardships, when you have to grow, you can turn into the most amazing person. From there, he said that that's where I kind of realized that I had more that I wanted to do in my life. I actually did want to go to college, and I would love to end up in California. So he went to the college program, and he was studying. So he went to college in Michigan, and what he said, I studied the film studies program. He's like, it was 2 classes. He's like, it was ridiculous. It was nothing. He goes, but it was film studies. And graduated, didn't have no job after that. So he's like, I'm going to go down to the local sports team and tell them that I'm a camera operator. And so he went to the local sports team, and they're like, so do you know this camera? And they hand like him this big camera. And he's like, oh yeah, we worked with that at the film school. And they're like, so you know audiovisual equipment? He's like, oh yeah, I put together all the audiovisual equipment for the film program. Worked on all the cameras. I set everything up. Is all like not true. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, well then we'll hire you. And he's like, looks at the camera and he's like, wow, there's a lot of buttons on this camera, but I only need to push one. I'm like, I love that. That's totally the attitude, guys. It's like, okay, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to figure it out. And this is what I got to do. So now he's operating the Kiss camera, you know, on the games, and they kiss and everything. So he's operating the Kiss camera. They paid him $200 a day. And so he's working on all these events. He's like, I'm going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere. I hope to end up in California. One day, this crew comes into the stadium, and there's a big director from Radical Media that's there, as well as a producer and the AD. And so he's like, I'm going to go talk to them. Whew, makes a beeline straight for them. And he starts talking to them. Hey, what are you guys shooting there? Where are you guys based in LA? What are you guys working on? Yeah, I'm working on the local cameras here. I really like to get in film. I've always wanted to be in a film. And they're like, oh yeah, they liked him. You know, he used his personality. So they're like this guy. And he's like, I'm already working camera. I know all the cameras. I know the lighting. This is what I do. And I want this life. So they're like, okay, well, if you come out to LA, we'll give you an internship. And he's like, done. Well, goes back to his job. He's like, that's what they said. I got their information. So they did their shoot. He gets promptly fired the next day because he talked to the director. They're like, no, you don't talk to directors that come into the stadium. He's like, oh, okay, well, I'm quitting. You're firing me anyway. I'm going to California. Oh, I love this. So he goes to California and doesn't have a whole lot of money. And his aunt pays for his rent like the first month, and then he gets another job while he's working in the internship inside Radical Media, and he's a sponge and he's working in there. He got this internship, right? And he's working with them, and he starts PAing. So now he's PAing on shoots, and he's PAing in the office, and he doesn't want to leave, and he's just like soaking it all up, and he's learning everything by watching these big directors and these big producers. These people, all the great people. He sees a job on Craigslist, and they're looking for a first AD. And he's like, oh, I'm PAing. I've never AD'd, but I'm sure I can do that. If other people can do that, I can do that. Very powerful thought. This is a thought that he said several times that I have seen with high achievers. If other people can do that, I can do this. I'm as smart as they are. They might be a couple years ahead of me, but I'm as smart as they are. Okay, that's a thought. Everybody. So he's like, I can do that. I'm as smart as they are. Goes to the interview, and he's like, oh yeah, I read the script. It sounds really great. I'd love to AD this project. And yeah, I worked at Radical Media. Those guys love me. I'm exposed to a lot of things all the time there, and I could totally do this. And the producer's like, okay, you got the job. Hired him on the spot. So they flew to Aspen. This was being shot for 3 months in Aspen. He's never AD'd before. He didn't know anything other than watching ADs work. So they give him a walkie. He kind of knows what to do. The first shot, they line it up. They're out in a boat. And there's the two people kind of liking each other, having some conversation. That's the scene. They line it up. The DP's got it all ready to go. And he goes, roll sound, roll camera. And the DP goes, what the fuck, man? It's like, we got to do rehearsals. And he's like, oh yeah, rehearsal. Rehearsal's up. So showed his lack of experience, but I'm sure he showed it in many other ways. But that DP loved him, and the crew loved him, and he figured it out for 3 months. And he's like, that shoot was crazy. He's like, we're up in a helicopter. I'm like, you're in a helicopter, your first shoot as a first AD, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're responsible for the whole crew. And he's like, I know, I was totally in over my head, but I loved every minute of it. I'm like, yes. In my brain, I'm like, I'm going to tell our people this. They are going to love this. So that's the attitude to have. And he's like, yeah, I kept the DP from getting hurt. He's like, I didn't even know that first AD job was to keep everybody safe. He's like, but luckily I kept the DP safe because the DP wanted to strap himself with ratchet straps to the top of the car and shoot the car going like 50 miles down the road. And he's like, even I could tell that that was not a good idea. He's like, so I put a kibosh on that one. And I'm like, oh, that was a good choice. Yeah, really good. Anyway, 3 months, got that thing done. Comes back to LA. Now he's an AD. And so he's like, I'm going to get in and start getting myself out there working as a second AD for all of these amazing first ADs in LA. So he spent an entire year sending his resume to first ADs in LA. Resume, 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 resume. And he got a few responses, an entire year. A few responses. Oh, good luck, kid. Sounds good, kid. All right, so we'll keep you in mind. 0 jobs after a year of trying. He's like, what gives? How am I going to get in the AD department? Nobody will let me in. They don't want to let me in. Is it because of my color? What is it? What the fuck, right? So he's like, okay, time to change strategy. Craigslist got me my first AD job. I'm going to go back to all the people that I PA'd with and AD'd, all the people I PA'd with. He's like, I'm going to go back to all the people I PA'd with and tell them that I can AD for them. So he contacted all of the PAs, all the coordinators, all the production supervisors. And he's like, hey guys, let me AD your project. I'd love to AD your project. I don't care even what you pay me. I want to AD it. What does this sound like, you guys? This is the professional project strategy that you guys learn in my program. Professional project is where you find other filmmakers on set and you're like, hey, I'd love to work on your project. You find out what they want to do. This is how he got in. So he worked on a bunch of professional projects and he AD'd them for them. Then people start passing his name all over the place. Then he went out to Craigslist, found another one, was a student filmmaker. These student filmmakers, there's some brilliant ones. They went to film school. Few and far between, there are some brilliant ones, but they don't understand the film industry at all. But they do need an AD. So he works on a couple of those. One of them was actually connected into the industry and actually frickin' really good. So he AD'd his thing. That thing took off. And it was a music video with some bands. And that band that guy got signed with a production company, and then he AD'd for him, and then he AD'd for him again and again. And then somebody was related to this other big artist that heard of this director and him, and then they hired them for a project, and now they're getting into the major stuff. So now you see from his IMDb all of those credits when he was just starting. All right. So now everybody in the world is calling him to AD their music video. He's the man. He's the one, the first AD. He's with all the big people. The Weeknd, all these people. The Weeknd loves him. All the producers and directors, everybody loves him. He can assemble a great team. He's the man. And then he was also doing commercials this whole time, because we're not just doing music videos. It's all projects. That's what the career is, right? And there's a director at Radical Media that he had worked with when he was PAing. And this director is like, hey, are you in the DGA yet? I'd love you to AD my commercial. And I want to travel all over the world with you. Let's go do it. And he's like, oh, I'm not in the DGA yet. So he's non-union, guys. Remember I say we start in non-union? Yes, this is it. Start in non-union and you build yourself up so that you can get qualified to join the DGA, which is a union, the Directors Guild of America. Or the union, whatever. There's all the different unions for the different crafts. So the director said, as soon as you become DGA, let me know. You're going to be my first AD and you'll be my only first AD. You're going to be the one. And he's like, holy shit, I better get going. So he positioned himself to get in the DGA. He got in the DGA. He'd been working a lot. He had the qualifications. He just hadn't put it through yet. So that's like 600 PA days. He had done it. He'd done all of the work. Now, guys, this is a couple years in, right? It's all like what we're even not aware of that we need to learn and do and master. But this journey wasn't a walk in the park. This journey was full of pain and disappointment. And for a whole year, nobody even responding to him, making no money and just being like, oh, I don't want to go back. How do you move up? He's like, how do you move up? I've been PAing plenty. I can get that work, but how do you get to AD work? I did this thing, but still nobody wants to let me in, right? That's very disappointing. Okay, so back to where he's now. The director said, once you become DGA, you'll be my AD. So he becomes DGA, lets the director know. He starts ADing for him. The guy was true to his word and has done a ton of shoots with this big director, traveling all over the world. Just did one like 3 months ago. So that's his story. Love this guy. Kenny, love this guy. So yeah, the story is good. It illustrates it perfectly for the mentality, that go-getter mentality, how you talk to yourself, how you think to yourself when you think to yourself. He thought, and I asked him yesterday, what was your main thought? He's like, I'm going to be an AD. Just one thought. You only need one thought. I'm going to be an AD. So when you send out the resume and they don't call you back, it doesn't matter. It's like, I'm going to be an AD. That just wasn't the way. So when you work with a team and you PA with them and then they don't call you back, but then another one does, you're like, I'm going to be an AD. Whatever way it goes, I'm going to be an AD. So it's the attitude. It's also working as a production assistant to make these relationships. It's also connecting with coordinators and other PAs and offering to do your job. That's a professional project strategy. It's a ton of hard work. It's a ton of saying yes and figuring it out, not knowing how it's all going to work out, but knowing that you have the confidence in yourself that you're going to figure it out. You're like, well, these people aren't smarter than me, so I can do it. So he had to keep telling himself that to keep moving forward. So is this typical? This Kenny mentality and this Kenny career, is it typical? I would say no, but it is amongst the top people. I mean, I totally relate with it because that was my path too. Something very similar. I can do this. I don't know how to do that, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. Remember Joe was telling me, you don't have the gear. You don't have the connections. You don't have the anything. You don't even know how to do those jobs. I'm like, I don't care. I'll figure it out. That means nothing to me. But you don't know anyway. I'll find him. I'm like, I don't know how to find him. I will find them. I will do this. Watch me. Watch me and take notes. Kenny has a very similar attitude. Now, think about it. The director that Kenny is ADing for, do you think that they're like that too? Are they thinking like that too? I think so. That's how we find each other. That's why Kenny likes me, because I think like him. That's why I'm working with Tamara, who is an interior designer also, and she works with me as my boom operator. But she only tells herself, like, oh, how do I do this? How do I find this? Let me find this. She goes and figures it out. She's a master figure-it-outer. The more you figure it out, the more you figure it out. Thanks so much for listening. And if you want to take your career to the next level in the film industry, go to friendsinfilm.com/join. That's friendsinfilm.com/join. You can sign up for our mini course, learn about the A-list model, and then you can take it all the way and do the A-list program. So that's friendsinfilm.com/join. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, everybody.